Welcome back to the Mother City, just a stone throw away, I beg your pardon, from the Cape Town City Hall. This is where we're canvassing the sentiments of some government officials, senior dignitaries and guests as we anticipate the State of the Nation address tonight at 7 p.m. Let's jump straight into it with Rise Mzantsi leader and the scopa chair, depending which cap we start with. Songezo Zibi is with us here on the SABC News Channel. Great to see you, sir. So much to speak about. It's the second SONA under the Government of National Unity, and perhaps we'll begin there. Has the past 12 months panned out the way you had envisioned, at least, when you decided to be part of the pack?
Look, in many respects, Ayanda, it's turned out better than it could have been, because this is the first time since 1948, I think, that there's been a coalition government in South Africa. So nobody's ever seen this in their living memory. The 1994 experiment was pre-agreed before the election, but this is the first forced coalition. It was never going to be smooth. I said so from the beginning. But I feel that the road between the budget disaster last year and now has a lot of learnings, and it's been a way smoother than the first SONA and the problems that happened before. So I'm optimistic now.
It's good to hear. A lot of people will be looking out for the detail, though. Last year, the president spoke, I think, about three main priorities under the, let me see if I can get this right, the medium-term development plan. That's what the P stands for. And, embedded in that is this concept of economic growth. And, the numbers don't lie, some people will say. There is a particular threshold that we need to reach if it is going to be meaningful growth. And unfortunately, we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, one of the things I've communicated to the president is the need to articulate what Operation Vulindlela is about better. Structural reforms are incredibly difficult. They take time. When you take a decision to invest in rail, for instance, today, you see the results in 2.5 years' time, not now. I think the important thing that the president should share is what the specific interventions have been, how long they're supposed to take, and whether we're beginning to see the green shoots from there. Already, the projected economic growth was just over 1%. A couple of months ago, it's 1.4% now.
A far cry from what we need.
Still a far cry from what we need, but you also need to understand what your structural constraints are. For instance, water. Who is going to invest in Johannesburg if you don't know whether you're going to have water or not? That is why infrastructure investment is so important. From a personal perspective, Ayanda, one of the things I've said, we've got to change the composition of our expenditure. 70% of South Africa's tax collected goes to salaries, and that excludes municipal salaries. That's the reality that we are facing. You can't have that. Sorry, that the number is about 60%. You can't have that. Then you also get over 400 billion that goes towards servicing debt. So all the tax that you've collected goes to two things: salaries and paying interest on debt. You can't continue that way, because the more you borrow, the higher the interest that you pay. So it's important to look inward in two ways. One, cut waste in government, first of all, and that's part of my job in the committee. That's the one thing. The second thing, there's a lot of money in South Africa. We complain about over R1 trillion cash sitting on company balance sheets. Let us access that money, but the way you access that money is also by accepting that you've got to have private investment in public goods, and that you're going to create a system of accountability between the private sector. You can't just say ideologically, I don't want it, and you leave money sitting in the bank.
Right, and I suppose that comes back to, I guess, building confidence, right? This concept of a developmental state. Before I let you go, and speaking about the money that perhaps isn't going where it needs to, we can't not speak about the State of the Road Accident Fund. When I see you, I have some of those, I suppose, very sobering assessments that you made in your capacity as a scopa chairperson. I mean, you look at institutions like that, and I can imagine somebody in the private sector with that money saying, ain't no way.
No, but look, the problem is we also have a wide gap between reality and what South Africans aspire for. The Road Accident Fund as a scheme is pure delusion, right? It's an insurance scheme that pays you damages, that pays you loss of future income, future medical expenses, and so on. And although it operates like an insurance, you don't match the income to the mandate. So it always has, on any given year, between 40 and 50 billion rand short which means you can never meet its obligation. You can't continue with a situation like that. Parliament here must not bury its head in the sand. We must agree about changing legislation, revising the mandate of the Road Accident Fund, because you can't tax South Africans more so that you can fund this scheme. You've got to make some legislative changes. And I understand there's a bill that is coming in the middle of the year to Parliament. I think it needs to be processed quickly because there's an extra 100 billion liability that's coming down the line if we are not careful, and we don't have that kind of money.